Welcome to Life as a Secret Yogi Yoga Podcast. And today we have an exciting guest, Lainey Morse, whom you may recognize as the original founder of Goat Yoga, now known as the original Goat Yoga. So today, Lainey, thank you for joining me on the show and to talk about your life as a secret yogi. And I know you've
Yeah, thanks for
mentioned,
having me.
I really appreciate the time. And yeah, I know your co-founder and left-hand lady Annie. Is that who's on the logo on the Goat Yoga?
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
so
back here somewhere.
cool. Yeah, I'd love to meet her. She's probably doing goat things. um, yeah, so the audience of the show are those that want to take the practice of yoga, meditation, breath work, energy work, among other related tools into the real world. It's a lot of people who are looking to perform at a higher level in other disciplines such as running, golf, surfing, basketball, art, music, entrepreneurship, and so on, or simply those who just want to live a beautiful life. And the audience does not necessarily have the desire to become the stereotypical yogi or yoga teacher. Nevertheless, the audience would like to utilize the tools of yoga and meditation among the other related tools to make life beautiful. And in short, the message of the secret yogi is that we all have this heroic self, our inner source that we cultivate through the tools of yoga to make a seemingly ordinary world extraordinary. It's that we all have this superhero that lives within. And yoga, meditation, breath work, and these similar practices allows us to tap into our superpowers. Our superpowers being mindfulness, awareness, love, focus, and creating happiness from within, to list just a few, and ultimately just feel good in a body that we love. So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about so much more than just goat yoga. And as goat yoga goes, so much deeper than just a fun photo opportunity. And we are going to show you how. Lainey is the perfect person. Like, you're the perfect person to talk about the deeper meaning of goat yoga, as it is only a piece of your greater mission, which is animal assisted therapy and farm therapy. Let me ask the audience listening right now if you have ever wished that life were just simpler, or that you wish you can go back to that nostalgic feeling back when you were little playing outside in the woods or in your yard, maybe even with your canine sidekick by your side. Or even if you're like myself, who is an avid reader, and the stories of Jack London, especially my favorite of his works, is called Call the Wild, and I wish I could just live a simpler life in nature. If you answered yes, or you're not alone. I think we can all agree that we wish life were a little simpler and that we were a little bit more connected to nature and the world around us. As for myself, I live in the city, and living in the concrete jungle, I personally often find myself muted to the music the earth gives out. Caught up in the hectic city life, I often feel disconnected, especially in the last 6 months when there's really hardly any human connection with the COVID-19 quarantine. So, just a few weekends ago, from the time of recording this right now, my girlfriend and I escaped the city life and we went hiking in upstate New York. As soon as we left the city, I had absolutely no service. So, thanks to Sprint, I had no service, and someone who is always on the go, it took some time to unwind. And being outside in nature with time felt like I was recharging. Like somebody just plugged me into the wall, and I felt like I was recharging. So I felt a new frequency, and I was able to enjoy the simple pleasures in life that I enjoyed as a child, embodying what I always say by taking my seemingly ordinary world and making it extraordinary. And I love the quote, there is no Wi-Fi in the forest, but you will find a better connection, because it's really true. On this weekend, we also stopped off at a dog breeder, friend of ours who trains service dogs, and she had 8 beautiful white Swiss shepherds, and you you could see the smile on my face radiating. I think my girlfriend has a video of that, me playing in the yard, playing fetch with them, and I was just so happy, and it just kind of brought me back to the simple life and the simple enjoyments of the world around us. I share this story with the audience listening right now and yourself, Lainey, because a big part of this show is embodying your inner secret yogi. It goes so far beyond just practicing yoga poses. It's about connecting with the world around us, connecting with other people, with animals, and with nature. With so much of us forced to live life behind a screen to make a living, we have to find ways to connect with the world around us. We need ways to slow our hectic lives, and taking a trip to a farm like yours, Lainey, or working with animals may it be goats, dogs, horses, cats, it doesn't really matter. It helps us find this connection. Plus, there are teachers all around us. May they be the stream that flows with ease, or the dog that wakes up each morning in complete bliss. So, the lessons we learn in yoga and meditation come naturally to animals. From movement to awareness, they are way more connected with the world around us. So, Lainey, I'm super excited to have you on the show to talk about goat yoga, animal assisted therapy, farm therapy, and as the one solution to our hectic world that we all find ourselves part of. And before we dive right in, if you're listening right now and you like this episode and haven't left a rating or review yet, please do so. It's the best way to support the show in producing future episodes. And also, you can follow us on Instagram for quick clips from episodes. Details will be in the show notes below. And thank you all for whoever already left a rating and written review. It is much appreciated. Also, if you like this episode, make sure to share it with at least one person you care about. So, Lainey, how did you get started in goat yoga? And I would like to kind of ask that in a unique way. So, if Webster's Dictionary called you up and was like, hey, Lainey, we would like you to add goat yoga to our next edition, and we would like you to define it, what would you say?
I would say it's part yoga, part animal assisted therapy. It's a happy distraction from the stresses of life, and that pretty much sums it up. It's using animals and nature and yoga to disconnect us from whatever's going on in our life. It could be sickness, it could be depression. It doesn't matter what it is, but it works.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And how did you kind of get started in this? Like, could you take us through kind of the journey of
Yeah.
where it began?
Yeah, I apologize. I've got huge, massive dogs all over wanting
Yeah,
attention.
that's awesome.
um, when it all happened, I was going through a really hard time in my life. I had just gone through a divorce. I was newly diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and I some days I couldn't even get out of bed. I was thinking to myself, I'm going to be bedridden for the rest of my life. And I was one that went to the gym every day. I ran half marathons. I went trail running all the time. And so for me, I always ate healthy in my life. And so for me, it was just like so devastating to think that I had a new reality. And I was in marketing, and I would go into work every day, and all I would look forward to was coming home and going out in the barn or going out into the field and just spending time with my goats. And so being surrounded by them was my distraction, my happy distraction. And I started something called Goat Happy Hour. And it was because it made me happy, and it was better than any antidepressant, better than anything. And I noticed that all the people I started having over, they left happy too, and so Goat Happy Hour became quite the thing in our town, and people would start calling me up and saying, I had a really stressful day at work. Can I come over for Goat Happy Hour? And so one of the people that came to one of the happy hours, she had a charity, and she asked me if I'd donate a kid's birthday party, a Goat Happy Hour kid's birthday party. And I'm not a big kid person, so I was like, oh, I don't know. But I did. And so I had a bunch of 6-year-olds on the farm, and they were just having the time of their life. And all the parents and myself are standing out in the field watching the goats. And one of the moms was a yoga instructor, and she said, you know, you should let me have a yoga class out here. It's so beautiful. And I just thought about it for a second, because if you're a goat owner, you know that anytime you're trying to do anything in the barn, the goats, you know, especially the babies, are jumping on top of your back, and they're just always getting in your way. And I just thought it would be hilarious to have a bunch of people out in the back field laying on yoga mats, and the goats would just be face and you know, they just want attention, they want to snuggle. And so I said, yep, let's do it. And so I started marketing it and calling it goat yoga. And uh, you know, I put it on Facebook as an event. And you know, I'm most of my family and friends, they thought I was off my rocker, but it was giving me so much joy to even just market it. And so we had our I was doing the marketing for that first class, and all of a sudden it was like 400 people wanted to
Wow.
come to this yoga class. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't have 400 people at my farm. So I took the event down, and I decided to do it through Eventbrite, and so that we could like register people.
Hmm.
So it was like a sold out class. And I sent the pictures to a magazine called Modern Farmer, and I just said, I think your readers would think this is a cute story. And they responded within a couple of minutes, and they were like, oh my gosh, these are adorable. And they ran that first story, and it just exploded. And you know, I had more classes. The New York Times came out, Huffington Post, Washington, or the Wall Street Journal, just every media outlet you can imagine did a story on goat yoga. And I'm pretty sure everybody thought it would last about 5 minutes. But it's we just celebrated our 4-year anniversary yesterday.
Oh,
uh,
congrats.
and you know, before the pandemic, we were set to have a record year. We were going to Google's campus monthly to do employee health and wellness events, Facebook, Nike. I mean, it was really doing well.
Hmm.
Um, and I think you know, the result of that is because it was 2016. There was the presidential elections. It's kind of a repeat. People were stressed. There and people's mental health was just frazzled. And I feel like this was an activity that they could do that just disconnected them from everything. And when you're on that mat in a field surrounded by goats that just want attention, it does something to people. And all they do is smile and laugh. And I've had people come up to me and tell me the most amazing stories about, you know, how they're a caregiver and they haven't smiled for months. And this is the first time they felt, you know, pure joy. And uh, people have said it was like the best day of their life. So there's something very concrete about it. And it might sound silly to say goat yoga, but there's something real about it that brings just absolute bliss to people. And we estimate now there's probably over 500 goat yoga businesses all over the world.
Wow.
Um, and it's got to be probably a $5+ million industry now. Um, we're still signing up new locations. I have 11 locations all over the U.S. right now. So it's we're on hold right now,
Yeah.
but we're anxious to get back at it, making people happy.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that the big part of the show and the big reason that what we were talking about uh, beforehand was that kind of like demystifying it. Like it's so much greater than just this photo opportunity or this marketing thing. It's like, oh, let's try to switch up yoga and add something to it. It's like it's so much more than that. And I'd
Hmm.
love to take the show and unpack that further, and what really like animal assisted therapy is,
Hmm.
and what the true meaning of goat yoga is. But before we do that, just to kind of go back to your farm and like on your farm. So, did you already own your farm? No regrets. That's what it's called, right?
No regrets. Yeah.
Um, um,
It was
Sorry.
actually at a
Yeah.
different location, like about 15 miles away. This is a new farm that I bought with my boyfriend, and so it's same name, different location.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. It was just an interesting kind of backstory of like if you owned it beforehand and where the name came from. But yeah, no, that's awesome. I love to talk more about your mission of Original Goat Yoga. So the mission on your website states that it's a joyful experience that improves mental and physical health through the healing powers
Hmm.
of nature and animals. Um, and then the economic development of rural households and family farms throughout the world
Hmm.
through agriculturism. So I love to talk about it if more, because I think if the audience is listening right now and if you take yourself too seriously in yoga, it's really for you. This is a great way. If you want to add an X factor to make your yoga unpredictable, as you never know when a goat will just jump on you, and while holding a pose, or if a goat decides to take a nap on you. And this is really for anybody. And it's pretty hard not to see the beauty in life when there's goats all around you. If you got a friend or a family member that can really benefit mentally or physically from yoga, but you just can't get them to take the class, like I really think that this is an awesome opportunity to try this, especially if it's your first time to yoga. It really gives this easy kind of happy distraction, as you call it, experience. So, can we kind of unpack more of the mission and the benefits of your goat yoga classes?
Yeah. I think a lot of people look at it and their immediate reaction is that um, it's it's just for that Instagram picture with a goat on your back. And part of that I think is my fault because that first picture, I had that yoga instructor come over and my baby goat jumped up on her back and I took a picture of that and that's what I used, to market that. And so it became kind of the focus for a lot of people where they would come in and I just want to go on my back. And I'm like, well, that's not really, what this is about. At that very first yoga class, not one goat jumped on anyone's back. And it was more about, they mostly just want to lay down next to you. And it's surprising to most people because most of the people haven't had any interaction with goats before. And so when they come in and all my goats just go towards them and want love, they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. So they're kind of a lot like a dog and a cat mixed. They won't come to their name. they, they don't mind at all. Uh, but they really are tuned into humans. And so when that goat comes to you and he puts his face right up into your face, it almost looks like they stare into your soul. And they just have the most they have these features that a lot of humans have a hard time obtaining. um, they have a sense of calm about them, and that's probably why it goes so well with yoga, is because when you're doing yoga, on the ground, out in nature, you feel grounded. And when you have that intense communication with an animal like that, um, that calmness, it's almost like you can't help but it seeps into your skin, and it helps us. And so I have anxiety issues, and that's probably why I spend so much time outside with the goats, is because they calm you down. But they're also playful and funny, and they make you laugh. And so it's that combination that makes them such good animal assisted therapy animals. um, is that, people use horses or dogs. So I kind of feel like I was put on this earth to repurpose goats to be therapy animals, because right now they're usually just used for milk or meat. And so I feel that, the world has finally opened their eyes, and there's more to goats than just eating them or milking them.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's amazing. I think the groundedness of an animal who's very centered and aware, and we generally think of cats or dogs to kind of have as companions, but there's so many different animals we could connect with, such as goats, horses. I mean, people even have connections with the different types of reptiles. There's so many different animals
Yeah,
that we can connect with. They all have their own unique kind of spin on how they um, see the world and
yep,
their personalities. And then of course, like when you break it down even further, I mean, animals are like humans. Like everyone's different. You have a litter of dogs, and just because it's from a certain line of dogs and it has these genetics doesn't, it's like humans. It's like, are you exactly like your siblings if you have siblings?
right.
And so it's a really amazing, and I like how you kind of found your purpose through that of using kind of go therapy as like your dharma, as we call it in yoga, or your purpose. And
Hmm.
are there any particular beliefs that you maybe once believed true that have kind of changed since then, since you kind of found your purpose and kind of overcame your own obstacles and helped others overcome theirs through go therapy?
I think people are so stuck in their beliefs, especially right now, that they don't open their minds to anything else. They just are so centered on either, whatever political party they are, or their religion, or their race. And I feel that if people would just open their minds more and open their hearts and try to understand other people, or, I've gotten a lot of ridicule and attacked by people because of goat yoga. Um, they either think I'm a cult leader, or I'm abusing the goats, which I can assure you that any goat yoga goat is about the most spoiled goat in the world, because it just gets love all the time.
Hmm.
And, it just opened my mind a lot to try to understand people better. That the grass is always greener someplace else, and once you get over there, you're like, oh, okay, I understand more now. So that's what I've really learned from all this crazy goat yoga ride is, you know, just you can't judge until you actually do something. And so I always just invite people out. If they're thinking I'm abusing my goats, to take a class and see what they say afterwards. And no one's taken me up on it, but I think people are, social media is really exploded in growth. If it wasn't for social media, goat yoga wouldn't be here. So I can't ridicule social media too much, but I think it's a mental health uh, accident waiting to happen in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Um, and people believe just what they read. And so the judgmental part, that's what I've learned is, open your eyes, open your heart, open your mind, and try new things too, so.
Yeah, no, that's amazingly put. I love how you put that, and kind of keep an open mind. There's other solutions to things, and there's other ways that people frame it. And social media can be this highlight reel, and it could really distract us in that kind of concept of the grass is greener always on the other side, or I'm a surfer, and the waves are always better towards the other sandbar because they always look bigger
Yep.
towards either side. But
Yeah.
um, it's the same saying, and there's so many different solutions, and you can't judge something unless you've experienced it, and go everything with an open mind, and kind of relieve that ego. And the rates of depression have risen higher year over year, and especially over the last 6 months with everything happening in
Hmm.
our world. And sometimes we just need a happy distraction, as you call it. And there's other solutions to our problems. If it's practicing a traditional yoga class, If it's working with a therapy animal, you know why is a dog any better than a goat? Like, they're both amazing in their own unique ways, but there's other ways, and just keeping an open mind to it. And I love how what the goal of this conversation right now and having these conversations is so important, because it gives this kind of unbiased approach to really uncoding what it truly is. We're not just scrolling through an Instagram post and I'm showing a picture of myself doing goat yoga with a goat on my back and saying, oh, you should try this out. It's like, no, we're really talking about what's the true meaning of it. Why do we go to this? Why is it important? Why do we share this message? And why have you chose to dedicate your life to this? And these conversations are super important to get that message out there. And for
Yeah.
anybody that's unsure, it's like, listen to this, and or send it to a friend that's unsure, that said, oh, it's just goat yoga, it's another scam. Like, it just really kind of consider it. And yeah, so, and um the next thing I wanted to talk about was that what we were just talking about, this idea of like the depression rates rising year over year in the last 6 months, especially. And sometimes we need this
Mhm.
happy distraction, as we call it. And I believe um, you're being extremely modest when you say happy distraction, because there's so much more happening underneath the surface when you take people out of their day to day and into nature and with animals who can teach us so much more about connecting with the world around us. So I really do feel like you're being modest in that. And there's so much more. And I want to give you credit for it. So, like, there is so much more. So, what makes a seemingly ordinary world, and this is my question, what makes a seemingly ordinary world extraordinary through being on a farm with goats? And the second part of the question is, so I want to talk more about goat and farm therapy, more specifically, animal assisted therapy. And I
Mhm.
could quote you before we kind of dive in, or use a quote. It may sound silly, but goat yoga is really helping people overcome anxiety, depression, and they are recovering from cancer or illness. And our thoughts, and the whole concept is our thoughts power our actions. So make our thoughts good ones. And therefore, our actions are good and our actions are contagious. So make those good ones. So, can we
Mhm.
talk a little bit more about animal assisted therapy and dive deeper into kind of what's really happening underneath the surface?
Well, I think one of the things we're going to be doing at No Regrets Farm, and if you wondered why it's called No Regrets Farm, it's because um, I was sick and tired of living my life with regrets. And so when I moved to the farm, I said, no more. I'm never, ever going to make a decision again that I regret. So I try to do my best. But so what we're going to be doing here at our farm is we're going to be inviting mental health counselors and therapists out to bring their clients. Um, right now they're doing probably most of their sessions through Zoom. Before they were going into some stuffy office, and people are already. It's hard to go to therapy, and I think inviting them out here where they can do it, just on the farm, either in the trees or we have a field, uh, and they're surrounded by animals. It lets people's guards down, and I think that people would start looking forward to their therapy sessions. We're not going to charge for this. It'll be like a donation basis only, because I think it would be so helpful for these people to. So not only are they seeing a therapist, but we're adding that animal assisted therapy part of it. And because it helps me every single day, um, I believe that it will help others too. Um, and what it really means is, some people just feel more comfortable around animals. Some people are introverts and um, they have a hard time connecting with other humans. Some people don't like people. And so, I think as long as they like animals, animals have a way of um, making you feel comfortable. Um, making you calm. I already mentioned that. But that's probably the key component. I think it'll help people open up, look forward to therapy sessions, and it helps them smile. And so the real key is to just get out of that, either that Zoom meeting, or just getting out of your house. Right now, everybody's been locked up for 6 months, and they just like you said in the beginning, you needed to get out in nature and go for a hike, and just doing that and then going to see animals was making you smile. And so I think that'll be the key, that everybody just needs to get outside, take a deep breath, and feel the fur, hug some animals. And I think they would be surprised at how refreshing it is.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's so important to be able to, one, it's like get people to talk more. I mean, if a lot of people are opposed to doing therapy sessions, but I mean, you say
Right.
like, oh, yeah, we're gonna go to a farm, and it's the whole goal is to kind of de-stress, and then the second
Hmm.
goal is to kind of, what we talk about on the show is we have these layers of the mind, and it might be feelings, it might be the ego, and these different layers that you're peeling away, like the layers of an onion, till you get to the true source, which is just
Hmm.
energy. It's nothing. When you peel away the onion, what's left? It's just the energy that's there, and we all share the same energy. So there's many layers to it, but whatever way that, on just a physical level, like if you could bring down your stress levels, that brings down maybe your cortisol, that now you're not
Hmm.
eating as much, you're not performing actions that may be harmful to your body. If there's other solutions that are not taking prescription drugs or something like that, that's amazing, because all those have
Okay.
side effects.
Yep.
Something like this doesn't have a side effect. I mean, even if you're allergic to an animal, well, there's other animals. So animals without hair, and there's something just about being in nature,
Hmm.
alone. Like, you don't even, the goats are great. It's a great way. I mean, just like dogs, just like cats, horses, or other animals. But I mean, just simply going for a walk in the park, in the streets, um, is amazing. So, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And are there any particular stories of one of your um, subjects, or somebody that has been to your farm or has worked with you, that really stood out?
I have location partners all over the U.S., and when I take a new location on, we go through a vetting process, and it's to make sure they don't slaughter their goats. Their goats are living in their forever home. They're not breeding babies like crazy, and just to for their goat yoga classes. These are the things that are important for me, and these when I do these interviews, the locations that I have, there's a connection, and it's usually because they've been through a traumatic event, or they might have mental health issues, just like I do with anxiety. And so we form a very tight bond, and for them, putting on these goat yoga classes isn't just giving therapy to other people, or yeah, to other people, but it's helping them as well, because when you see that class and you see everyone smiling and laughing, and you hear all of the stories, there's lots of stories that people come. Our Michigan location has, um, I our
Get the
Michigan
dogs.
location has, a mom who brings their autistic son, and he just bonds so much with those animals, and they just keep on coming back. And it's so heartwarming to see those pictures of him smiling. And um, there was a lady who, uh, oh wait, there was a lady that, she had breast cancer, and she was on Twitter, and she was on radiation, and she was saying that, she couldn't wait to reward herself with a goat yoga class, when she was done with chemo. And when she probably was posting this for 6 months, while she was going through this, and the day she walked into my class, whew, we just both started crying, and I gave her a big hug, and she sat down on that mat, and it was almost like those goats knew, and they just went up to her, and one of the goats just climbed up on her lap uh, and took a nap. And it was just so heartwarming to see. And it's been probably, I think that was my first year, and I, she still posts about it to this day. She goes to other goat yogas now because she lives in Seattle, that I'll never forget that moment, because it meant so much to her, and it just made her so happy. And there's the time a lady came into the class, and her daughter walked up to me after the class and said, my dad has cancer, and my mom is his full-time caregiver now, and she was going to cancel our tickets because of that. And I said, Mom, you need this. You need to go do something that makes you happy. And the mom's crying, and I'm crying, and she said, I probably haven't smiled in 6 months or more. And she said, this has been everything to me. So it's not just some silly gimmick. This is real therapy that's happening to people, and
Yeah.
it's been life changing.
Yeah, yeah, it really sounds like it really makes a deep impact in people's lives, and it's amazing that you even were able to share those stories and how much it touched them. And since you had your dogs all around, I do have the question. Like, people are probably asking, like, why goats and why not dogs? And can you tell us a little bit more about your Nigerian dwarf goats?
Hmm.
Do you have different species besides that? And specifically,
Yep.
maybe Annie, the face of the brand, she's a Nigerian dwarf
Mhm.
goat.
Yeah. So yeah, I started out with Nigerian dwarf goats, and they're a mini variety. Um, Annie was the first and only baby I've had at my farm. I really didn't know anything about goats when I got my first two. I bought a book called Goats for Dummies to learn. And so I bred Ansel, her mother, and I will never do that again because it was so stressful, and there's so many goats that need rescuing. So that was the last baby born on my farm. But she was really what inspired, the goat yoga as well. So I have Boer goats as well, and they're also called meat goats because people slaughter them usually when they're 1 year old, and they sell them for meat. Um, in my case, usually everybody in a goat yoga business gets Nigerian dwarf goats because they're small, but the Boer goats are my absolute favorite breed of goat. They have a different personality, I think, than the Nigerian dwarf goats do. Um, they're they're much more loving. They're much bigger, but they always want to be by me. They snuggle, where the Nigerians, they're a little bit more playful. I mean, they're awesome too, but the two breeds, I have such a heart for the Boer goats because they usually get slaughtered. So I've rescued 3 Boers. My favorite, and he was my own he was my therapy goat, absolutely. But he passed away last year, and so I have 2 now, and they're quickly taking his place as my favorites because they're amazing. And I also have 2 Kuni pigs,
Oh, wow.
which I don't
Kuni
know if
Kuni
you've ever
pigs.
seen.
No,
You,
I'm
if
not
you've
sure.
Well, you'll have to Google what they look like because they're absolutely adorable and hilarious. But they're also like a favorite breed that people buy for pork roasts and barbecues.
Oh, no.
So they were also rescued, and they are pretty much a fan favorite now. Anybody who comes to the farm, they're just like, oh my gosh, what are those? Because they're hairy, and they just love people. And so the UPS guy comes, and they chase him down the driveway if he doesn't pet them. and,
Wow.
and so We lay on the ground and snuggle with them. They're probably close to 200 pounds. They're pretty big. But they used to be house pigs too, sleep in our bedroom, but now they're so big that they slide on their stomach and their little legs can't keep them up. So they're also going to be used as therapy animals because once people see those pigs, they can't help but laugh and smile, and but those pigs like to snuggle, so they're going to have to snuggle some pigs.
Yeah, definitely. This is awesome. I mean, I didn't realize how much the need for rescuing goats were, and maybe even specifically pigs. And if I just two parts to this question. So the first one, if somebody has, say, the space and they live on a piece of property where they could have goats, where does one
Hmm.
go to rescue one? And the second thing is, what are some precautions? Like you said, you read that book. If someone happened to want a pet goat and maybe want to use it as a therapy animal, like do they eat your yoga mats? Do they? There's probably a conception that they just eat everything. I mean, when I was away a few weekends ago, they had goats on the farm, and
Hmm.
they've just I don't think seen them once that they were not eating. You could even hear them at night
Right.
eating. And yeah, I mean, do you milk the goats? Do they poop a lot because they eat a lot? Like,
Yeah, they
what are some?
do poop a lot, but it's kind of an old wives' tale that they eat everything. They don't. My goats are very picky, um, but what they do is they mess with people, and I think it's hilarious because if you have a zipper or a button, I wear this coat, and my goats do my zipper all the time, up and down. And it's just hilarious. And so they're just constantly trying to mess with people. Like at goat yoga, you can't wear earrings because they'll bite you, they'll test them, and you can't wear necklaces. My sister came over one time with a diamond pendant necklace that her husband had bought her for their anniversary, and within 3 seconds my goat ate it. And they don't it doesn't work the same with like humans. It's not coming out in their VM. It's
Oh
in
wow,
there for the rest of. So now one goat has two hearts, uh,
ghost's worth a lot.
and yeah, and then they're ruminators, and so like a cow is chewing its cud. That's what goats do as well. So it looks like they're constantly eating, but they're ruminating, and so it's just and
Mhm.
it's oddly relaxing to watch that because it's a very methodical process for them to do that. And it's I spend a lot of time watching that. It might sound odd, but it's
Meditative, yeah.
it is very meditative. And you asked earlier about why not dogs and why goats. And I think dogs. I mean, I have three dogs. They are goat guardian dogs. I live out in the middle of nowhere with coyotes and mountain lions and bear, and uh, they don't set foot on our property. I mean, we have a fence, but they do a very good job, and they love their goats. Um, but dogs, they don't have that same sense of calm that the goat does. And it might have a lot to do with that, the chewing the cud. It's very meditative, and so when they're snuggling next to you, you can hear that and you can watch that. Where dogs kind of have their own game where they're off playing, or we're humans aren't the focus of the dog's life usually. The, for the goats, they're herd animals, and so they welcome the human into their herd. They don't care what color your skin is or who you are. They'll follow you everywhere because that's what they are. That's what they do, is they're herd animals. And so um, I'm not saying dogs can't be good therapy animals. They absolutely are. But I want people to open their minds and know that goats can be wonderful at therapy as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really good point that I don't think a lot of people listening, including myself, have really thought of it, like the groundedness and dogs. We did a whole episode. It's a really long episode. It'll be launching before this on dog yoga and kind of demystifying that and that connection
Mhm.
between dogs and animals. And I mean, dogs and animals, dogs and their owners and their
Mhm.
family members. So they're human family members. But the whole aspect of it of that episode was basically dogs if take kind of the reaction of the humans where
Mhm.
if you could calm your body you could calm your dog, and of course
Mhm.
there's well-trained therapy dogs where it works in the reverse, but they are reactive, and if you're very like tense and like ready to go, the dog will often kind of take that
Mimic
same
that.
mentality. If your
Yep.
mind's crazy and
Mhm.
disconnected, your dog's mind's often disconnected because they're so attached to please you and to be with you and do that, and they also are easily distracted. um,
Mhm.
and so of course if there's service dogs and it works a little bit in the reverse. But yeah, the reason I asked that because I did read a book a little while back, and it's I really recommend this book. It's an awesome book. It's called Dog is Love: Why and How Our Dogs Love You by Clive Wynne. So Dr. Clive Wynne, and it basically states that animals have long been shown to increase our oxytocin levels, and that's like the
Mhm.
bonding hormone, to
Right.
increase dopamine levels, a neurotransmitter associated with rewards, and ultimately decrease our cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone, and
Mhm.
decrease our blood pressure and improve anything from PTSD to depression to anxiety. And it's its own treatment regimen. And it's perfect how we're talking about this because it goes beyond just dogs, and we have goats, and there's an animal for everybody, and there's
Yep.
any way we could connect with nature, and people just keep an open
Yep.
mind.
We have a little bit of everything. I'm going to move over a little bit here.
Sure.
um, at our farm because we've got chickens. Chickens are also very relaxing
Hmm.
just to watch. They have all kinds of neat little sounds they make, and um, the pigs love music. So I sing to them, and they sing back to me.
Really? Wow. I love to
Believe it or
hear
not.
that.
Yeah, and the dogs, we have a certain type of dog, which a guardian dog. So they're the I don't know if you saw the big white one that was
Yeah,
here
are they
way right in the
Kangals
big
or are they Caucasian
no
Shepherds?
uh Great Pyrenees, and
Great Pyrenees.
the white one that was here at the beginning was the Great Pyrenees, and
Okay.
then Anatolian Shepherd
Anatolian.
were the
Okay, that's what
ones
it is. Yeah.
that yeah.
They're big, fierce, independent dogs, but
Yes.
I mean, they were coming right up to you. They're also loving it seems like, and
Yeah, they're
they
very,
guard
very
their
loving.
goats.
Yeah, but they always are. They have a job to do. They're working dogs, and so they really wouldn't be the best therapy dogs because they are very distracted.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's funny you said that. I'm actually looking right now. I've been really patient, kind of. I'm my goal with introducing animals into my own practice and teachings in person is to train a therapy dog to bring to me with yoga classes and incorporate into any workshops that I'm doing, similar to what you're doing. But I live in the city atmosphere, so I'm limited where I can't really have goats and pigs, and I would love that eventually. But I'm training a dog to basically work as a therapy animal that I could bring to yoga classes. So you have
Oh,
that
nice.
connection with nature and to be able to get grounded with, if you may not have the ability to be in nature at that time.
Hmm.
Um, so the one question on that is, um, we could learn so much about from our animals, and what are some things, maybe yogic lessons that we could learn from our goats? And we mentioned a couple, so it's kind of like the meditative, the chewing, as
Hmm.
you mentioned. They're a lot more grounded. They're lighthearted. Um, and the message of the secret yogi is to use our superpower of giving love and receiving love. And animals truly teach us that um, this unconditional, unwavering love. And this is what makes life beautiful. This is what makes a seemingly ordinary world extraordinary. So, is there any other yogic lessons that we could learn from goats that we might have missed that you personally know or think of?
I think everybody kind of has that monkey brain. Like, there's so much going on, especially with social media. It's like that endless scrolling, and it's hard to stay focused, or everybody's just kind of uptight and hyper. But what goats are really good at is just being in the moment, um, being still, and that part, to me, I need that part, and so that's probably why I'm such an advocate for for using goats as therapy, is because after my day, well, actually after the last 4 years, when goat yoga went viral, I was very sick, and I was calling my doctor and begging him for steroids because I couldn't get through an interview without, panting and losing my energy. And it it was like a roller coaster ride. It was really fun, but I was going 100 miles an hour, and it was like this roller coaster I couldn't get off, and I didn't want to get off because it was amazing, but it was very hard on my body, and I just wanted it to be a thing. I didn't want it to go away like every viral thing does usually. And so I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, do radio interviews or media interviews. I would go to work full time, come home, do more interviews. I finally ended up quitting my job that I had had for 10 years. And I thought, I'm just going to make sure that this happens and this stays around. But it was exhausting. And it wasn't until March of 2020 that it was kind of the first time I was able to just go, wow, I don't have anything to do.
Yeah, blessing in disguise.
It
If you
it
looked at
absolutely
from
was. It
optimistic.
was, yeah, it's the first time I slowed down. I mean, I had the month before, I had flown to San Francisco to do a show, a TV show with Gordon Ramsay. I was going to San Francisco, or San Jose, and did a documentary with a Croatian media company. And I flew
Oh,
back on March 8th of 2020. And that's probably the last time I'll be in an airplane for a while. But um, it, March 10th was really the day that I said, uh-oh,
hmm,
this is not good, and closed all our classes up, and then just tried to spend time with the goats, be out on the farm. I never knew how to cook, so I taught myself how to cook. I went Pinterest crazy. I planted a garden, grew things from seed. I've never done that before, so that was very gratifying. I did everything I possibly could that would be good for my soul,
hmm.
that garden saved me, I think. It was like I pulled out every weed by hand. I could have used a rototiller, but it felt better to just sit on the ground and pull weeds out. And it was amazing. And so being still, um, it's been a long 6 months.
Yeah.
And I, on June 1st, my mother fell down some stairs and broke her hip, and was in a nursing home rehab facility for a month. Um, her dementia has really taken over our lives, and so we're trying to learn how to deal with that. Um, it's been a very challenging year, but I can't say that there has been one day in the past 4 years that I have not come out and sat on the ground with my goats and just be still. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think being present is awesome, and cultivating the gardening. If in a physical terms, you're planting a garden, but you're also planting a seed within to kind of sprout and cultivating that. And that's awesome that you kind of looked at it in an optimistic point of view, where you could have taken it, oh, look, I'm getting less. My business has to shut down temporarily, but you're able to kind of say, look at the bigger picture and say, there's my self needs work in terms of self-reflection, and I need to recharge myself, my family, my animals, which are your family as well, and
Hmm.
kind of recharging all that. So that's awesome. And I like to kind of um, towards the end of this interview, and I'd like to ask some audience questions. So we answered some of them, and I'll just kind of briefly cover them, and you could just answer them in short.
Okay.
So these are some questions that the audience had, and it's one was around a goat happy hour, and they thought it was an amazing idea by combining kind of like the yin and the yang, and getting together doing something fun like goat yoga, yoga hikes, should be more popularized than partying or boozing. Because sometimes we all enjoy maybe a cold beer if you like drinking, but the goat happy hour is this like perfect combination of yin and yang, and there's other options like yoga hikes. So we kind of covered what it was, but in is there any other aspects that you would recommend maybe around goat happy hour, or how somebody could take part in that?
Well, actually, my partner and I have been wondering how we can get through this. You know, we don't want to see original goat yoga go away, but yet I still don't feel safe having classes. Um, so we decided that we could start doing goat happy hours. And that is something that will be private pod experiences that you can customize. Say you want a picnic basket with your goat happy hour, or you know, I do live in wine country, so we have several wineries, a brewery. We've got some great organic gardens around, so I I think we can really create some really neat experiences out here with
Awesome.
um, not only the goats, but we'll have different pods set up. So if people want to do the pig pod in the front yard, they can do that one, or the goat happy hour pod out in the field, or actually we're going to make one out here too in the forest. So it's really just about getting out in nature, surrounding yourself with animals, and you know, sucking up the sunshine and being outside and feeling the wind, and
Mhm.
people need that right now, and so that's what we're going to start doing at all of our locations.
Yeah, that's amazing. That sounds awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, and I'm super excited for you guys, and where it kind of takes you, and how you guys kind of getting creative with this, which is it's a perfect thing. Anything that gets you on your yoga mat, but really anything that gets you out in nature, and anything that kind of
Yep.
combines something healthy with also entertainment, and having fun, and yeah, and connecting
Yeah,
with
and I feel like
humans,
it's
animals, nature.
a safer approach to
Yeah.
getting outside. Like I don't have to you know, hire a yoga instructor. If they want to bring yoga mats, they can do yoga with my goats if they want. But I don't have to be out there. I can just kind of check them in, and they can go be with their private pod. So you know, here at the farm, I think I'd probably limit it to 6 people. That's kind of my safety valve measure.
Yeah.
Um, it's you know, family. I think we've all kind of created these personal little pods of people that we feel are, you know, take safety precautions, wear masks, do social distancing, and you know, for me it's my parents. Those are the 2 people I see, and my other 2 people that I see are my ex-husband and his mom. We're best friends, and so they come over and have goat happy hour with us, and
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's, there's safe alternatives out there. Um, and I feel like that can be one of them that really can help people's mental health through this.
Hmm. Okay. Question 2. What is the funniest story or thing you've seen hosting goat yoga or animal assisted therapy over your 4 years now?
Oh, that's beyond a doubt. When you're sitting in a, a goat yoga class and it's super quiet and everybody's just chill, and then all of a sudden a goat walks up to somebody and sneezes right in their face. And it's just hilarious. The whole class erupts in laughter. And it's funny too when the goats poop on someone's yoga mat, because that happens. But it's just little pellets and you can just shake them off and they don't stink or anything. So it's if that bothers people, they're probably not the best candidates for goat yoga. But it's definitely, because goats are very gaseous and sneeze, and they do all kinds of crazy noises. And so when they sneeze in someone's face, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Question 3 is, where does one buy or rescue a goat?
I made friends with a farmer she has like 600 head of sheep, and then she has a bunch of goats that she breeds every year, and then she sells them for meat. And so I would go visit this farmer, and I would usually come home with a goat. And so it's, when you see all these babies, I think the first year we did goat yoga, we went to her farm and did baby goat yoga. And she had, I think, 21 babies,
Oh my God. It's a
all
lot.
bouncing around. And I think I came home with 3 of those babies. So, I knew what was going to happen to them, so I would either start calling some farms, maybe look on Craigslist. People sometimes are trying to get rid of animals on there. Um, but that was my method. Is I became friends with the farmer, but quickly after I actually had to hide her feed because I couldn't stand seeing. I mean, I can't have 5,000 goats, and so my limit is 13 goats. That's all the goats I can
All right. Yeah. And for everybody listening, make sure you please do your research and you give them a proper
Yes.
home. And always look to rescue first. So, what's your best goat joke? Do you have any like goat jokes you use, or particular puns,
Puns.
or
Um,
anything that's like,
well, it's goat to be loved. I goat your back. I mean, I've came out with a line of clothing that pretty much has them all.
all right, cool. So check out your line of clothing. Where can people find that?
It's on my website on the um, shop tab.
Okay, cool. And that's the original Goat Yoga, or
It's
no, it's goatyoga.net.
goatyoga.net. Yep.
Goatyoga.net for everybody.
Yep.
Check that out. And okay, so question 5: will a goat eat my yoga mat? And that's probably a common question.
That is, and that's a good question because when people would come to goat yoga, of course they would bring the cheapest mat they had because they're going to be laying it in a field of goat poop. Um, so I don't blame them, but goats get bored and then they start uh, biting pieces of plastic off the yoga mats. And I thought, this can't be good for their stomachs. And so I uh, researched what kind of mats would stand up to a goat, and they would send me a mat, and I would go out in the barn and sit down on it and see if it would withstand the goat test. And I finally found one that would, and so I usually suggest people buy this certain type of a mat
It's a goat proof
if
mat.
they're offering goat yoga.
The
Yeah.
goat test. And which type of mat is that? Is that maybe like a cork mat or like a higher
Oh
density
no, they
mat?
would definitely eat a cork mat. Cork mat. It's a I can't remember the brand name, but it's a light travel mat.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
And
maybe we could
so,
put that in the show notes so we could connect after
yeah,
if
but
anybody's
it's very
interested.
tough. It's almost like rubberized, and
Ooh,
they're
okay.
goat proof.
Awesome. And are goats generally clean animals?
Hmm. Goats never stink. They uh, really, um, you don't ever have to give them a bath. They're almost like self-cleaning ovens. They hate the rain, so they never really get wet. But it's pretty fascinating to have a goat for as long as I have, and they've never once stunk, and they never get dirty.
Awesome. And the last audience question is, do you make goat milk or do you milk your goats? Or do they even have milk?
Nope, I do not, because you have to breed goats to be able to do that. And so, if I wanted to have goat milk, I would have to breed my goats continually, and then have babies continually. And then, what do I do with those babies? Do I keep all those babies?
Gotta
Because
keep them.
that's absolutely, because I fall in love with everything that enters this farm. And so, I personally, I can't do it, because I would fall in love with every single baby, and it would never leave, and then I'd have 5,000 goats. um,
Yeah.
so I can't do
Yeah,
it.
it'd break my heart too. Um, okay, so that concludes the audience questions. And just the last thing is there any actionable items that the audience can implement today in regards to reconnecting with nature and de-stressing? Anything that works particularly for you that people
Hmm.
can implement today? They might not have, they might be at home, they might not have exposure to goats, but is there
Hmm.
anything in brief that you would recommend that they do, in your opinion?
um, Before, I probably would have said, go to your local animal shelter and volunteer, and just go in there and sit with the animals, and pet them. That that I think would be just so helpful for not only the animal, but also for the human. And they probably don't have goats, but cats, dogs. It would really be beneficial. Also, I would say, if you live in the city, go try to find a park. Try to find a quiet spot, just to sit down. And I'm sitting on a log right now, and out in the woods. And I call this space the office. This is where my partner and I come out every morning, and we talk about what we're going to do for the day. Usually the goats are all around us, and the dogs. And it's just, it's better than an office, a real office. And just getting outside just really, it's just a huge difference. So turn off the TV, turn off your phone, turn off your computer, go outside, look up at the sky, feel the wind. And then, because of COVID, I don't know if they are accepting volunteers, but I would say that would be a huge benefit. They could also go to, see if there's any open farms in their area that they could go out to and just volunteer to brush the horses or the cows, or the goats. They love that, and it's very therapeutic for both the human and the animal.
Awesome. That's great advice. And if the shelters are not open, they're just doing fosters. You just got to adopt. That's it.
Yep, yep.
They always need cats, especially. I mean, dogs too, but
Yes.
cats are really in high demand, and it's really meaningful. I just adopted a kitten who's now
Oh,
4 months old. So, and he's
nice.
awesome. He's awesome. He acts like a
That's
dog. His
awesome.
name's Buddha. So.
Nice.
He's napping right now. We're fortunate because he goes crazy. He takes leaping jumps onto my laptops, presses all the wrong buttons, somehow does stuff that I have no idea how to switch back. But
How fun.
yeah, Lainey, I want to thank you so much. You're the true founder of Goat Yoga and the original Goat Yoga. Um, so all the listeners who want to ensure they're getting the authentic original Goat Yoga, go over to www.goatyoga.net. You have an Instagram account. And where else can people find more about yourself and stay connected with what you're doing in these goat pods and animal pods for
Hmm.
this
My
happy hour. Sounds
my
amazing.
farm, yeah, my farm has a Facebook page, No Regrets Farm, in Sanctuary. So they can follow that. They can see the crazy life we lead with the pigs. It's insane, but it's pretty entertaining. So follow our page there, and we'll be doing a lot of goat happy hours in the future, hopefully.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, no, I really appreciate your time. And for everybody listening, definitely go check that out. You have locations all over the country. So yeah, so no excuses. Get out of nature. At least it's a park or an animal, or you just get a
Yep,
plant.
exactly.
Became a plant dad too.
Yeah.
I went a little crazy, got a lot of plants, but yeah, thank you, Lainey, so much.
I'm going to find the goats, and I can set I can set up the tripod and show you how I go happy hour.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I'm just gonna just log on to something. Oh, it's awesome.
See the spotted guys?
Yeah. All on yeah, there's a
Those are
bunch.
the Boer goats. How
Boer
could you eat
goats.
those?
Oh, yeah, they're a little larger, right? Do you know all them individually by name?
Of course I do. These are my babies.
Which one's that? What's his name or her name?
This is Romeo.
Romeo. Ah,
Yep.
charm.
He's the best therapy goat ever. But this is basically what goat happy hour is sitting on the ground with these guys. And do you see how he's chewing his cud?
Nice. Yeah, that's very it's meditative in that sense. I'm sure that I definitely see. I think you made a really great point when you were talking about the difference between dogs and goats and just how they're more grounded. You could
Mm-hmm.
definitely see that hyperactive, especially dogs in the city where there's so much stimulus. Who's that?
This is
That's
Quincy.
hey, Quincy. Oh, you get the head. Can't hear me, but awesome, awesome. Yeah, and the dogs are beautiful too. They're all right. I really
Well, this is
appreciate.
this is how I meditate.
Yeah, no, and that's the whole thing of the show where it's like there's so many different ways. Like you don't have to be a yogi wearing mala beads and sitting up top of a mountain or in a cave. There's
Yep,
so many different ways to de-stress, make life beautiful, and life's extraordinary. So if we think it's seemingly ordinary, like kind of that's
yep.
why I love to talk to people like yourself who have found ways and can share it with people. So yeah, no, I really appreciate your time. Thanks, Lainey.
Thanks, Austin. Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. All right. Have
All right.
a great rest of your day and have a great weekend too. All
Thanks. You too. Bye bye.
right. Bye, Lainey.